Welcome to another episode of Marvel Man 901. So today I'm going to talk about Thor, Thunderstrike, Quasar, Sable and Mxyzptlk, Marvel Comics Presents featuring Hawkeye, Tales to Astonish, and Superman. So I'm gonna start off with Thor issue 476 from 1994. So in this issue, basically Donald Blake was back, actually returned in the previous issue, and Jane Foster and Thor naturally trying to explain everything, every very complex thing to him. But he naturally won't listen to this as it's all very strange. However, Jane Foster also explains to both Thor and Donald Blake that she's actually gonna remain in Wundagore, basically to take care of the Anna mutants and the God Pack and all that for the High Evolutionary, and to basically school her child in anything really that she can, as the High Evolutionary basically had a lot of books that she could use. Thor basically takes Donald Blake to New York, basically to prove once and for all that a lot of time has actually passed while you've basically been stuck in a kind of suspended animation since I basically took over. Very hard thing to actually tell someone, but he does it anyway. Meanwhile, Hela basically releases Lorelei from the Destroyer armor as she basically placed her in as basically a punishment previous actions. Basically really unsure as to who actually enters the Destroyer armor, but she sends it to New York to fight Thor, which it does, and obviously someone very powerful inside the Destroyer armor, as Thor is actually defeated by this. So we continue in the next issue naturally. So we're gonna go to Thunderstrike issue 10 from 1994. So basically there is a fake Thor now, and Thunderstrike naturally fights him, realizes very quickly that this is not exactly the real Thor, but he is actually defeated by this fake Thor. So the Avengers basically tries to find this guy and to defeat him as well, but they are unsuccessful. Thunderstrike meanwhile feels that he has to basically shoulder this responsibility, and he basically goes to a very deep storage of the Avengers basically to find a certain armor that Thor had previously created or helped created, used naturally. So he basically comes up to the fake Thor to fight him in this armor, basically actually convinces him that he is the actual Thor, and actually defeats this fake Thor. In the end of this issue, Thor actually comes to greet Thunderstrike, and they actually basically walk off into the sunset as good friends. Okay, so we're gonna go to Quasar issue 60 from 1994. So basically this is the last issue of this volume, and it's kind of a sad issue as he basically has to say goodbye to his friends, his loved ones and all that, as he basically is going to continue a little bit further actually to be the protector of the universe, to leave Earth for maybe forever, and basically just save the universe instead of just Earth. So while he does this, Presence actually is out for revenge for his son's death. His son being Vanguard and actually died during the whole Star Blast storyline. And he learns from his daughter Darkstar that apparently she and Vanguard had been recruited by Quasar to basically fight in this fight. And naturally, Presence being already a villain or basically a foe of Quasar, he naturally believes that Quasar has to pay for this. He has to be held responsible for this death. So naturally he and Darkstar goes off to fight and kill Quasar. So eventually they have a big ass fight, and eventually Quasar realizes that he can't actually defeat them and end this. He actually needs to find a different way, and to do this he actually fakes his own death. Naturally everyone else takes this very hard, as the Avengers and Fantastic Four and the New Warriors and all that basically shows up and realizing that holy crap, Quasar is actually dead. He's naturally not dead, he is out in space basically just leaving in the best way they could, at least considering the circumstances. So we're gonna move over to Sable and Mxyzptlk issue 27 from 1994. So this issue is a lot about Trapster and Sandman, at least their relationship, and actually fairly good relationship. They are basically old friends, and Sandman actually wants to basically make sure that Trapster can have a second chance. So he basically convinces Sable to take in this guy, to give him a chance to be something better, and somewhat reluctantly she agrees and goes along with it, providing that he naturally passes some tests. So there's a lot of training stuff and all that, deepening on the relationship, and you get to see more about Trapster actually how his life turned out, and it's not exactly great. He is deeply in debt with some bad people. No one actually wants to give him a job, as he's naturally parolee and all that. Eventually he just turns to crime yet again, and naturally Sandman realizes this and basically fights Trapster. He realizes that we can't really change this guy, so he has to basically to fight him and defeat him and let him be arrested by the police. Kind of sad thing actually to see, but yeah. Alright, so we're gonna go to Marvel Comics Presents issue 159 from 1994. This is a Hawkeye story actually. The first part of this is Rocky Reunion. So basically, US Agent is now part of the Force Works team thing that Iron Man somewhat controls or started or whatever. He is basically wanting some answers from Hawkeye about why he hasn't actually returned. Naturally, you can kind of understand why he left the West Coast Avengers team when his wife died, but he still wanted some answers, so we basically looked for him, found him in the wilderness, and during a somewhat confusing fight, Hawkeye accidentally almost mortally wounds US Agent. So we're gonna go back in time to 1964 now with Tales to Astonish issue 55. So the old enemy of Giant Man Wasp, naturally, Human Top, actually escapes prison and is now out for revenge yet again. So this guy is kind of slippery, as you might remember, and is, if you wonder who the Human Top actually is, he's naturally later known as Whirlwind. Yeah, it's the same guy. Anyway, there's a big fight, a lot of traps and stuff like that. Eventually though, naturally the heroes win and defeats the Human Top. So we're gonna go to the last issue for today. This is DC's Superman Volume 2 issue 11 from 1987. So this reintroduces Mxyzptlk, as you might see here. So he basically is doing a whole Beyonder bits thing actually. If you're known about the Beyonder of the whole Secret Wars, the second Secret Wars anyway, from the 80s, this is very much Beyonder thing. Anyway, he basically tries to, naturally he disguises himself as this Beyonder-like guy and basically flirts, trying to basically win over Lois Lane. All of this is basically a way for him to get to Superman. So eventually he reveals himself to Superman when Superman gets involved, and Superman naturally tricks the imp of the fifth dimension to basically do the thing that he would basically be defeated by, which is spelling his name backwards. Kind of a thing to defeat someone with. So that's it for today. I hope you have enjoyed. Do subscribe and share this if you like this, and naturally all of this is Marvel's and DC's creations. I'm telling the stories. Have a good day.